Speaking of brothers, here's a film the wonderful Aaron Jungles made about our older brother Joe. My brother Joe, oldest brother. That's the first memory. First one to get a bike, first one to teach us to ride a bike. Got into guitar real early when he was 8 years old. Got the Melbay instructional book and did it straight down the line, no futzing around. He always learned it that way as opposed to me and Dave, who never learned to read music.
Joel is my oldest brother. Who taught me how to play guitar. Well, that was the biggest thing anyone probably has ever given to me, is the love of playing the guitar. One of my earlier memories of it was watching him play and seeing actual, and I didn't recognize at the time, but I saw pain, and I saw how beautiful it was coming out of him. And I wanted to do that.
He liked to practice his playing or improv to something else. So we couldn't play, but we would have like one note, we'd go. And to that, he would make up a world.
The first thing he taught me was, and I would do that for 10, 15 minutes, and he would just go. And the places he would go were incredible.
But the first song that I wanted to sing was House of Rising Sun, and he taught it to me. It had real chords, you know. There is a house in New Orleans. But he went from this childhood with Maine, I mean, having great times playing guitar, being in the country, that feeling. But when it came to picking his life, he was ready. You know, to go from that boy to the responsibility of what he wanted to do. And he worked hard and got great. I mean, his fingers got muscle bound at one time where he had to practice a little less, so they would have more agility.
Fucker, I'd go to school in the morning, and he'd be sitting on the porch with a metronome, and he was there when I got back. You know, he doesn't remember that, but I do. I mean, I'm sure he wasn't there every second of the day. I guess all I mean to say is the guy had discipline.
He was able early to get great expression like through his instrument. But you know, you have a feeling in your gut, and then you can put it onto the guitar. You know, you think the feeling, wistfulness, and you know. Whereas you watch someone else play, and they'll be like, and they're close, but they're not the same. You invest yourself in the note. He was able to do that early.
What a beautiful voice he had. He had such a great singing voice. In fact, you know, there's these songs, before he actually started writing songs, he'd play like Paul Simon's Like a Rock, Joel Walsh's Walk This Way. And when I hear them today now, I always kind of go, I like the way Joel sang it better.
I would watch him do Paul Simon songs and such. And I liked his versions better.
And he was always there. He was a good big brother. You know, I remember when I was getting picked on in school, and Joel would get off early from high school, and after a while he started coming and walking me home from school. So this guy would leave me alone, and that was cool. I enjoyed that.
I said, take me to LaBelle Woods. I was too young to drive the bikes with everyone else to LaBelle Woods. They always go to LaBelle Woods. He goes, all right, I'll get that 3-speed, you'll get on the bar like you do, and I'll drive to LaBelle Woods. Well, Saturday morning came and he didn't want to go to LaBelle Woods, especially with a kid on this thing. I was really mad at him. And he goes, look, I'll ride you around the neighborhood. So I got on the bar. Dude, I could feel his chin on the top of my head. And I always... and he liked me chewing gum. I always remember that. One day, getting picked up from Treasure Island where he was bagging groceries, he told my mom about the voices he was hearing that day, and that changed everything.
Boy, do I remember that night. we were picking up, he was bagging groceries at Treasure Island. And I think I'm 12. And it was Christmas Eve, I'm pretty sure. And we were in, most of the kids were in the kitchen. And we were building a gingerbread house. And I forget why I wandered out. I wandered out to the bunch with the Christmas tree. And I saw Bill talking about and he could barely speak. He was trying to explain it. And all I could see is that he seemed lost within his own head, his own eyes. And he looked in such pain. At the time, I just, I didn't think it was huge. I mean, I felt it was huge. I didn't think it was going to be the rest of our lives. And as his voice has progressed, and then of course he went to the stage where he didn't trust us, and thought we were out to get him. For a long time, I just tried to have regular conversations with him. And I would just, when he went off in his tangents and talked to his voices and shouted, I would just sit back. In fact, that's pretty much what I distilled. We just spent a lot of nights telling him that the voices were wrong, that we love him. And I think it helped. I think it got to him. The constant reassurance. But he still, I think him and Chris had a particular tough time. Because I was the youngest, so he always took a gentleness with me. And the hardest part was watching him think that Chris was trying to take his place. Because this is the big brother.
Schizophrenia for a lot of people is misinformation. They usually beat you up about you and everyone else is against you and conspiracy. So that started right off the bat. And we would spend our time trying to convince him that we were behind him, that the voices weren't telling the truth. I remember it as kind of an arc of support, annoyance, and trying to be brothers still, trying to get back to that feeling, which wasn't the easiest thing for me. I think Dave did it better.
It's funny because one might think it's all terrible, but there were some nights where he would tell me about what he was going through, and it wasn't all bad. I mean, they made him laugh. He's had a good time with it.
Well, he has a great sense of humor. He doesn't always hear what you're doing, but I'll make him laugh and hook up. You're funny, Chris. Then he was gone. So you didn't know. You didn't know if you'd see him again or what was going to become of him. And maybe 8 months later, he showed back up, and he had hitched a hike across the country. Had a lot of stories to tell about that. And he came back very thin, very weak. And I remember I got back from the Milford Theater, and I shook his hand, and it was very limp, and he had a Bible in his hand that he was referencing constantly, looking into it. And so there was that phase.
There would be stretches where he didn't play it. I think a lot of it was the voices saying, that's not you, this is us playing it. You don't do shit, you are shit, this is what we do. We just let you, hold the guitar basically. And so he stopped playing for a while. What I said to him is, well, let them think it's them. Don't you enjoy it when they're playing the guitar? If it's them, isn't that enough that you get to be involved? And for a long time, it wasn't.
As he started to really study guitar like he used to, Chet Atkins stuff, classical, flamenco, he's come full circle musically. He's back to the big guys where he belongs with. Not just singing pop songs or folk songs, which are great, but, taking it to that level, the level, the ultimate level of musicianship.
This is my vehicle. This is what I use to help me find what I think and feel about something. And I think that's the same for him. But he took me into his world, and he shared it with me the best he could. So for that, I'm grateful.
I think he had a very nice outlook on what his soul was here for, what he was here for, or what he liked about being here. And he still does. But years and years later, it was then you found yourself trying to remember the kid he was before. All of a sudden you're like, Oh, that's right, he was this other guy.